thousands of years history, it's been through various tragedies. It's been through positive things and indeed negative aspects as well, as many countries have. And of course, recently, we have been tonight in May of this year, the disaster, the floods, the landslides have caused devastation across the country. And it's considered the second largest floods that the country has faced. The floods affected 15 districts. As of June, an estimated 700,000 have been affected, with a total of 212 deaths and 79 people missing. 2,500 houses were completely destroyed, and around 16,000 were partially damaged. And about 700,000, as I said, people have been displaced. And, you know, it's almost, I mean, if we go back to 2004, we had the Boxing Day tsunami. And certainly, the death toll in these floods has been nowhere near the Boxing Day tsunami, but the amount of people displaced, I would say, is almost equal, if not more, than what we had in the Boxing Day tsunami. So, quite seriously, they are in much need of assistance and help. And you know, one of the things that Sri Lanka has, as you know, it had a 30-year war, and after that, since 2009, there is relative peace, which is a great thing. Now, also one of the most important things that I want to talk about, you know, I think the strength of Sri Lanka currently is its diversity. Diversity is its strength. The Tamil, Muslim, Berber, and indeed the Sinhalese communities, it's a very diverse country. And indeed tonight, I'm delighted to say that we have a representative of all the communities here to raise funds for this much needed funds for these flood victims in Sri Lanka.
Dayaratne Ethnic Committees Council is a big body for ethnic community groups, associations and clubs in Dayaratne and connected to this area, which provides a platform and voice for ethnic communities to present issues of interest and concerns, to collaborate among diverse communities on common areas of interest, and to advocate on behalf of our communities to the wider community and to all levels of government. At the moment, we are having a campaign around the citizenship changes that are being proposed by the federal government, so that's one issue. So we do a lot of advocacy on behalf of communities in Dayaratne. Now, before we start any meetings, we also acknowledge, we have developed our own expression of acknowledging the traditional rulers. So let me do that now. The Dayaratne Ethnic Communities Council solemnly declares, on behalf of culturally, linguistically, and religiously diverse migrants, refugees, asylum seekers, and past and current international students who have arrived from many different countries across the world to seek shelter and to build better lives, and on behalf of all their descendants, that we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we stand today and pay our respects to elders past and present. We further acknowledge and pay our respects to those of the stolen generations.
Australia වාසය කරන ශ්‍රී ලාංකික දෙමළ මුස්ලිම් සිංහල බංගමලේ හැම ප්‍රජාවක්ම යෝජනය කරමින් සංවිධාන කීපයක් මේක රැස් වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ සංවිධාන හැම කෙනෙක්ගේම එකතු වෙමින් තමයි අපි මේ දකුණේ අපි තෝරාගත්ත පාසලකට මුල්‍ය ආදායයක් කිරීම සඳහා යම් කිසි උපකාරයක් කිරීම සඳහා මේ රාත්‍රී භෝජන සංග්‍රහය සංවිධානය කරේ. Sri Lanka में समाज क्रियावली साधना लोयलटी हेतु पिता सिद्धू विभागों की विशाल संग्रहिया लेकर हालना यदि में हम विभाग में अपेक्षा ट्रेनिंग होगा ये विभाग कादार පුද්ගලයන්ට හානි කරන්නේ ජාතිවාදී වශයෙන් කියලා. අපි මතකයි සුනාමි වෙලාවේ නැගෙනහිර බංග තීරයට සුනාමි වෙච්ච හානියේදී ගොඩක් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ජනතාවට හානි සිදු වුණා. හම්බන්තොට දකුණු වීර තීරයේ මුස්ලිම් ජනතාවට රටේ වෙනකොට සිංහල ජනතාවට ඒ හානිය සිදු වුණා. නමුත් ව්‍යාසයෙන් පස්සේ ආපදාවෙන් පස්සේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ හැටියට ලෝකයේ හැමෝටම වඩා ඉස්සරහට ගිහිලා අපි හැමෝම එකිනෙකට උදව් කරගත්තා. ජාතිවාදීන් තෝරන එන්නත්නම් මොනවාද පක්ෂ දේශපාලන දෙලිවලින් කරව අපේ හැකියාවක් ලැබුණා. එකිනෙකට උදව් කරගත්තා. ප්‍රශ්න තියෙන්නේ අපි හැමදාම වියසකෙක් එකතු වෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ අපි එකිනෙකට උදව් කරනවා. ඒ වුණාට කවදාවත් අපි එහා පැත්තට අපේ මොකද ත්‍යාගයෙන් යන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ සඳහා මම හිතන්නේ අපි මොනවද දන්නවා ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ දේශපාලන සම්මානකාරී සමාජ දේශපාලනය නායකයන් උත්සාහ කරනවා අතන ජාතිකත්වයෙන් බෙදලා තියාගන්න. නමුත් මේ ව්‍යාසනෝනේ ලෝකයේ සමාජාගත අපිට වඩා ඉදිරියට ගිය දේශපාලන අවස්ථාවන් අපි අත්දැකලා තියෙන විශේෂයෙන්ම අපිටලා උදාහරණ දෙන්න ඉන්දුනීසියාවේ අචේ ක්‍රාන්තිය. ඒ දේශපාලන විසුමසදව ආරකලේ විසුමන්ත මොනික අධිකාරවලුනේ ස්වභාවික ව්‍යාසනයේ ඉදිරි පස්සේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ඕනමගදී වෙන අවස්ථාවන් සාකච්ඡා මණ්ඩලයකට සමාන සාහනාර්ථය වගේම ඒවා ඒතර දුක් ප්‍රයත්න වෙන්නේ කවුරුහරි පාර්ශ්වයක් වෙලා මේක කලාකරලා කරනවා නැත්නම් ඒක දිවිකට කරනවා. ඒ නිසා අපි උත්සාහ කරා සංවිධාන කීකරණයට ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන්ට ලෝකයේ වාසය කරන අනිත් ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන්ට දෙමළ වේවා කවිල වේවා මුස්ලිම් වේවා වර්ග වේවා මෙලේවා හැමකෙනෙකුටම බලයක් දෙන්න. ඒ තමයි අපි හැම වෙලේම අපි අනිකාගේ ප්‍රශ්නය අපේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් කරගන්න ඕනේ. ලකුණේ ජනතාවගේ ප්‍රශ්න උතුරේ ජනතාව වෙනුවෙන් කෙනෙක් සිටිනවා. උතුරේ ප්‍රශ්නේ ජනතාව ලකුණේ අය වෙනුවෙන් කෙනෙක් සිටිනවා. මුස්ලිම් අයගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ උතුරේ දෙමළ සිංහල හැම කෙනෙක් සිටිනවා. අපි කතාවට වඩා යහපත් ශ්‍රී ලංකාව හදාගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ අරමුණ තමයි අපි මේ රාත්‍රී බෝධි සංග්‍රහය ජනතාවේ ආදාර මූල්‍යාධාරිත කිරීමේ ක්‍රියාව ආරම්භ කරේ.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். இன்று மாலை இலங்கையின் தென்பகுதியில் ஏற்பட்ட மாபெரும் மனச்சரிவு வெள்ளப்பெருக்கினாலே பாதிக்கப்பட்ட ஆயிரக்கணக்கான மக்களை நினைவு வைத்து மனிதாபிமானத்துடன் என்ற பண்புடன் இங்கே கூடியிருக்கின்ற உங்கள் அனைவரையும் வருகிற வரவேற்கிறேன். இன்றைய தினத்திலே நாங்கள் செய்கின்ற சிறிய உதவி கூட பெரிய உதவியாக கருதப்படும் என்பது உங்கள் எல்லோருக்கும் தெரியும். அதன் அடிப்படையிலே இங்கே வந்திருப்பவர்களுக்கு நன்றி கூறி என்னுடைய அனுபவம் ஒன்று 40 ஆண்டுகளுக்கு முன்னர் ஒரு அனுபவம் ஒன்று மற்றவர்களுடன் பங்கு கொள்வதற்காக ஆங்கிலத்திலே நான் சில வார்த்தைகளை பேச விரும்புகிறேன். I will now share my experience, my personal experience in another tragedy in the past 40 years ago. That was during the August 1977 communal riots. I was a young lad living in Dayaratne with my auntie, very safely. A young, strange man in his early 30s suddenly turned up at our doors. And he couldn't say a word in Tamil, and we couldn't understand him. We never spoke English at the time. But somehow he managed to say that he was from a village in Perera, and that morning he was beaten up by his fellow villagers and friends. He said, yes, friends too, beat me up. And the old lady of the day was stopped at Perera and was turned back for safety of the passengers. And he got into this packed train, got back to Dayaratne, and somehow turned up at our doorsteps in Dayaratne town, one of the houses in Dayaratne town. And all he asked was a saram and a few shirts, and if you can give me something to eat. My auntie gave him all that and more, and she offered him to stay in our place if he chose to. And this guy was so overwhelmed in the generosity that he felt. He stayed with us for about half a day, and by afternoon, by 6 o'clock, he said, "You are so good, you're so nice, and I just can't basically take this anymore." Like, he was so overwhelmed that he felt that he, being a man, he was beaten up simply because of his father, who was long dead, was a Tamil. And he felt that while his fellow beings are beating up the Tamils in the south and etc., he has been looked after so well in Jaffna. Why I narrate this is, humanity is so powerful. If we respect fellow human beings, beyond his color and language, we can see each other's, feel each other's love and needs. Now, if we can extend that in every other thing, that showing understanding and respect for others' rights, be political, language, or human rights, peace and prosperity can be enjoyed by all. And the beautiful island can be a shining example to all peoples around the world. Tonight, I thank you for coming in the spirit of love and respect for others. And whatever little we do tonight will be, I'm sure, be counted as a valuable gift from us here together. And thank you for those people who have organized this event, and particularly all those who have put a lot of effort into this. And also, I'm very happy that I'm able to participate in an event like this for the first time, where we can understand each other, support each other, and go forward into the future, treating each other as a human being, nothing else. Thank you.
As all of us know, Sri Lanka has been through many tragedies. You know, the 30-year tragic war that decimated so many parts of the country, killed so many hundreds and thousands of people in all sides. And fortunately, now we've come to a stage where there's peace. And as I always say, you know, you can achieve, you can't achieve peace by winning wars and through guns. You can only achieve a real peace through understanding, communication, love and caring. And that's the day that not only Sri Lanka, but all countries around the world that have been through these situations of civil wars, you can never end a war and achieve real peace without love, without understanding, without caring, without understanding each other's suffering. All communities around the world that have experienced wars have been through suffering. And that's been the same in Sri Lanka. All communities in Sri Lanka have experienced this suffering. And a true, real peace, true harmony can only be achieved by cherishing that wonderful thing of diversity.
From all the information we collected, it was clear that this was one of the most damaged schools in Sri Lanka and was greatly in need of support. The name of the school is Dudley Senanayaka Mahavidyalaya in Pitapattara, Dehikaspe, Mata. However, we came to know that there were two types of schools in Sri Lanka. Some under the jurisdiction of the government and some under the provincial councils. I spoke to the principal to verify the status of the school. He confirmed that the school does not fall under the jurisdiction of the government but under the administration of the Southern Provincial Council. He briefed us about the damages to the school buildings, library, furniture, musical instruments, boundary security fence, etc. The principal sent us the photographs, which are shown in this presentation. Photographs of the damages to the school. By this time, we were able to identify two specific sub-projects. The school had lost 40 office chairs and all science books of the school library. The principal, the minister and the Fundraiser Coordinating Committee agreed that this was a good project and to transfer funds so that 40 office chairs and all science books could be replenished. After much deliberation, the committee concurred to transfer funds directly to the account after making arrangements to ensure appropriate accountability measures. The account of the School Development Society is subjected to an annual audit as per the audit standards required by the accountability mechanisms of the Government of Sri Lanka. In addition, the committee required a letter signed and stamped by the President of the School Development Society ensuring that the funds, when transferred, will be committed to the identified project. On that note, the Fundraising Committee approved the transfer of funds directly to the School Development Society. The letter is indicated on this presentation. Before I conclude, I like to personally thank all members of the Fundraiser Coordinating Committee, their many supporters and all the sponsors without whose active support and assistance we could not have achieved this success. Thank you very much for your attention.
Country Sri Lanka, as it was recovering from 30 years of civil war, had yet another very painful disaster to deal with. I'm pleased that there has been, from different parts of the world, a good response, though I must say it would have been better from certain quarters. I know that many groups in Australia have tried to contribute by way of relief and reconstruction for Sri Lanka. And so has the Australian government. Although I must say, I thought its contribution was miserly, to put it politely. Nevertheless, I know that a good many people have come to the party, and of course there is this important fundraising event this evening. I'm doubly pleased to be here because of the context in which this evening is taking place. And I'd like to thank all the sponsoring organisations for making it possible. I think this event is an opportunity for the various communities represented from Sri Lanka here in Melbourne to be involved in the organising and in taking part. I know that this has been a difficult period of Sri Lanka's history. And even out of the tragedy of the floods, something positive can emerge. As different parts of the country and different parts of the diaspora in Australia and elsewhere try together to do something that is constructive for the future. Not just immediate relief and reconstruction, but something for the future of the country and the international community that is of Sri Lankan ancestry in different parts of the world and Australia. And I know that it is not easy. We've heard words in which the diversity of Sri Lanka has been compared to the diversity of Australia. I must say that I'm not one of those who constantly pats Australia on the back for its diversity. We have a very long way to go. We need only think of our indigenous communities in this country. And there is a difference. between the situation in Sri Lanka on the one hand, or Malaysia, and Australia. In Australia, there is no single community which is more than 2% of the total population. The much greater challenge to diversity and to social cohesion occurs when the minorities are much more sizable. And that's where, of course, difficulties emerge. So I'm very hopeful that in the coming months and years, we will see not only in Sri Lanka itself, but in Australia and in Melbourne, serious attempts at reconciliation. Serious attempts at reconciliation that put a premium on three particular characteristics. One, it has to be based on a search for truth. The truth of one's history and the truth of one's current situation. Secondly, it has to be based on a more just arrangement that respects not only the interests and the rights of individuals, but also of communities, of minorities, as well as, of course, majorities. And the third, I think, important characteristic is education. How we educate ourselves about what has been and what can be in the future. And that's why I think those particular areas are going to be critical to the future development of Sri Lanka. And indeed, of the role which the diaspora can play, both in this country and elsewhere. So I want to congratulate the organisers and everyone here. I think if there is to be true reconciliation, it will happen not just in words, but first and foremost in action. And tonight is evidence of that kind of action, committed to a truthful and just reconciliation now and in the future. So I salute you for that, and it's my honour and pleasure to be in some small way associated with tonight's event. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the organising committee, it is indeed my privilege to deliver tonight's vote of thanks. On behalf of the organising committee, I wish to thank the following individuals and organisations for their generosity and support, without which tonight's event would not have occurred. So our thank you goes to the Dayaratne City Council for providing the City Hall pro bono for this evening. Mayor of Dayaratne Communities Council, Kim Mikab, Deputy Major of Dayaratne Council, Ethnic Communities Council, Gaetano Greco, Dayaratne Ethnic Communities Council for their sponsorship, People for Human Rights and Equality for their sponsorship, Australian Advocacy for Good Governance in Sri Lanka for their sponsorship, Malima Forum for their sponsorship, Movement for Equal Rights for their sponsorship, Sri Lanka Invites for their sponsorship, Australian Tamil Congress for their support, the Consul General of Sri Lanka in Melbourne, Mr. Prasanna Gamage, for his assistance and encouragement, Emeritus Professor Joseph Camilleri for his major contribution, Siva Ganga for their contemporary Kathak dance performed by Moshka and Shisheshka for their Bhangra dance, Academy of Indian Music Australia for the musical performance, Myron on flute and Narayan on Mirudanga, Lux Dance Crew for their contemporary Kathak dance performed by Samuel Joshi and Lakshanya Vasa, Victorian School of Bhangra and LBW Seniors for their Bhangra performance by Rupam Prabhakar and Lakshanya Vasa, for Mr. Ramjiva Perera for being the master of ceremonies, the principal of the W. Seranayaka Mahavidyalaya Pitibaddara, Dehi Gaspe, for his assistance, the Minister of Education of the Southern Provincial Council in Sri Lanka for his assistance, MK Spices and Things for their support, for the audience for their generous support, purchasing tickets and other donations, and for all others who have supported us in various ways. Thank you indeed. Have a good night.